And now we reach our final period, the modern era. And the question here is, are we actually doing anything right? Are we going in the right direction? Are we doing things in a positive way? Can we see hope for the future? Let's have a look, first of all, how the population changed during this period. So increasingly we got urbanization. Scary statistic, really. By 2011, 80% of people lived in cities or large towns. We've got a change in the amount of money. We've seen this as an issue throughout the years. So there was an economic struggle in the early 1900s and then after World War II. However, but after 1957, Harold Wilson was able to say that people would never had it so good. By 2000, many people owned luxury homes and cars, but the credit cards and debt has taken over. So people are spending, but they don't necessarily have the means to pay that back. By 1880s, most working men had got the vote, and by 1920, all women had got it. We got to set up the liberal state, and then we got the issue that comes with that, which is many people worrying that the existence of the welfare state means that we're spending too much money, and we got a backlash over that as well. Science and technology have totally changed, particularly the way that enforcement is. We've got whole new crimes linked to drugs and to cars and to music and to pirating and the internet. We've also got an awful lot of people coming to our shores, um, often bringing their own set of resent. 1900, we've got Russian Jews, then we've got Commonwealth migration. The EU has brought immigration as well, and all of these have brought social tensions. The very makeup of though Britain has changed. Uh, Increasingly, jobs are being done by machines. That means that people are likely to be either unskilled or unemployed. Women have got more rights. The church has lost control largely. No longer has the grip on the population it used to have. So only 10% of people saw themselves as churchgoer by the year 2000. More divorces, more single parents. But alongside that, changes in the way that we see individual rights. So the 1948 Declaration on Human Rights means that we shouldn't be discriminating on any of those instances. That has an issue for crimes, but also has an issue for punishment as well. 1900 to 1955 crime rates continued pretty much as they had done before. However, during the Blitz, we get a significant increase in crime, a little blip of crime just there, and crime then has really shot up in the years after that, partly because of our classification of crimes has changed. Now, crimes themselves have changed, so some crimes now are not reported, so smacking, although it exists as a crime. So some are no longer crimes like as abortion or suicide or homosexual acts, and we have new crimes such as smoking or not wearing a seatbelt. Now, car crime has really changed a lot of this. It's also changed the way the police are seen as well, because we've got brand new laws. You can see how it changes. Breathalyzers in 1967, seatbelts a little bit further back. Speed cameras came in 1992. And actually, having said that, road deaths have fallen steadily since the 1960s. Better locks lead to less joyriding of late and stealing and respraying. So that's been a drop in some crimes, but equally, it's changed the way that people perceive crime full stop. Awful period of the 1970s and 80s, probably peaking with the Heysel Stadium disaster in 1984 in terms of football hooliganism. 39 dying there. We got CCTV coming in. Increased prices means it's actually the hooliganism is less likely to happen in the stadium, more likely to happen elsewhere. We have had a massive increase in the amount of race crime, though, particularly as immigration from Commonwealth, and that's led to race relation acts being passed in the 60s and 70s to ensure equal access. Hate and race crime has become much more of an issue. It began really with the killing of Altab Ali, but the turning point was the 1993 murder of Stephen Lawrence. In 2005, you could be tried for the same evidence if there was the same crime if there was new evidence available as a result of this, and we have the new category of hate crime with severe sentences, with new laws coming in 1998 and 2003. There are crimes linked to drugs, often linked to music itself, and that increased from the 1960s. We've had a sweeping ban and then a categorization of different drugs from 1971. Huge profits being made by organised gangs from smuggling, and that's linked to prostitution as well. And we have legal highs still a problem today. Internet, of course, has changed the world, and it's led to a whole new set of cyber crimes, pirating issues, phishing scams, hacking into accounts, extortion. Cybercrime was only included in crime rates in 2015 and doubled the rate of crime from the previous year. So a whole new set of crimes to consider. The police, in terms of enforcement, the police have really gone a major change. So after the introduction of the Met Police spread, we could say that reached the golden age by the 1950s, 1960s. For a number of different reasons, trust in the police has dropped from 1917 onwards. 2005, only less than 2/3 of the population said they trust the police. That's partly because officers now are a lot more likely to be in cars rather than on foot. Many people resent the police because of traffic offences. We've got examples of the police misusing their power, such as against the mines in the 1980s, and examples of police corruption, such as the interference and the dishonesty that involved the Hillsborough Stadium disaster from 1989. So people lost faith. Police over this time have really been reorganised. 200 forces were in existence in 1900. There were only 43 after the 1964 Act of Parliament. Officers now require a higher standard of education. There are more women involved in the police, but we still have an issue. There are only 4% of ethnic minorities in the police. We've gone back a little bit full circle, really, with medieval period, with neighbourhood watch being an issue. We've still got no weapons as a standard policeman, but we do have taser and pepper spray. And a lot of police, the image of the police is tarnished by the issue of paperwork getting in the way of, some would argue, solving crime. Technology has played a massive change in the way that policing can be done, from establishing and identifying blood groups, use of fingerprints, being used in court from 1902, massive change with the use of DNA from 1984. We have communication improved with telephone boxes in London from 1929, and then portable radios, use of CCTV. And 2015 alone, we had over 700,000 requests to monitor emails and texts. Courts have changed. So we now have the Courts Act in 1971 that replaced the old system. Finally, they're sizing the quarter sessions of the new Crown Court in 90 different locations. Judges still hear the most serious, and magistrates hear the less serious crimes. There has been changes within that, though, so it means that our juries now are more representative because you don't have to have a certain amount of property to qualify. We have juvenile court specialising in young people in 1908. We have women more involved, so the first magistrates in 1920, and today actually women outnumber men in terms of being magistrates. On to punishment then. So we've had debate has really changed over this period of time. So corporal punishment, even some liberals supported the use of the birch, but it was campaigned against, and its use ended for young offenders in 1933 and for all offenders in 1948, and it ended even as something to be used in prison as a punishment in 1962. Massive problem here. Massive debate rather here over the issue of capital punishment. So the last criminals were executed in 1964, and the 1965 we see the abolition of the Death Penalty Act. There's still arguments continue with people saying it should be brought back, but most MPs oppose its use. There's been petitions for both sides and debates on both sides. There's slightly more people wanting it to be kept as abolished. Some people don't want to call it back, but MPs largely favour the abolishment of the death penalty, the continued abolishment. We got a change in the way the young people are dealt with. So youth prisons, from 1902 we got Borstals and then young offenders institutions. Now these days 10 to 70-year-olds receive support in secure children's home, and the change of age of responsibility from 1908 the age of responsibility was 7 years old, and now it's 10 years old. We have a continued debate over the issue of rehabilitation. It's changed over the time period. So 1900s, 1970, there was a real move towards rehabilitation, but it's been mixed ever since. So 1896, we had separate treatment for mentally ill prisoners. Treadmills were abolished. We had a major reform in terms of rehabilitation. Silent treatments had ended from 1922, and they ended also the shaving of heads. That there would be normal work and small pay, and then there was a debate and recognition that not everyone could be rehabilitated, and therefore years could actually be added to your sentences. Major issue though involves the issue of rising prison populations. Many people want tougher sentences, but that has consequences. So many people, even awaiting trial, are kept in prison. So 1990 Strangeways in Manchester saw riots, and more locally, there 2 people died during that. More locally, in 2009, there were riots in Shrewsbury Prison, which had been built for 177 prisoners, but in that year had 316 prisoners. We have building of new prisons over the last, well, from 1985 to 2006. Since 1992, more and more so, prisons have been given to the hands of private companies to try and save some money. Prisons continue to cost an awful lot of money, with the annual cost of prison being put at £27,000 in 2007. Finally, there are now alternatives to prison which has developed over this time period. So in 1907, we had the probation service, which gave support for those who came out of prison early, monitored them, made sure they were doing the right things. In 1967, we had the parole system for early leaving. In 1990s, we had some prisoners wearing digital tags so they could be monitored that way. And from 1972, the community service order meant that prisoners, rather than go to prison, criminals rather than go to prison, could do unpaid or educational service, something that would benefit the society. In 1990, we also had a focus on looking after the victims themselves. So the Victim Support Charter, later called the Victim Support Code, established the treatment for a victim, and that meant that a victim could give a support statement in court, either read by themselves or by a representative, to the criminal to express their effect on it. So it was a way of trying to even up the issue and try to explain the effects on the criminal that had had. And we'll just finish up now with a final look at the assessment.